TellyCast, the TV industry news review.
Hi, I'm Justin Crosby, and welcome to TellyCast. As the TV industry events calendar hots up with markets all over the world in June, this week we're previewing the return of Sunnyside of the Dog as the international documentary community prepares to gather in La Rochelle, France from the 20th to the 23rd of June. It's coming right up on this week's TellyCast. On this week's show, I'm delighted to be joined by Mathieu Bejot, Sunnyside of the Doc's Director of Strategy and Development. Welcome to TellyCast, Mathieu.
Thank you, Justin.
I've always been aware of Sunnyside of the Doc, but up until this point, I've never actually made the trip to La Rochelle in France, where the event happens, to experience it. So I'm really excited to be coming down in a couple of weeks' time. So for my benefit and that of listeners who haven't made the trip yet or are still maybe considering whether to come along to Sunnyside of the Doc 2022, let's delve into the event in a little bit of detail. It's been established for quite a number of years, hasn't it?
You're right, and I'm really glad you're coming. Nobody's perfect. You never attended, but you've made the right decision this year, Justin. More seriously, the event was actually set up last millennium even, in 1990, at a moment where I think documentary didn't quite get the same attention as it does today and not the same recognition. It was very often aired on public broadcasters. A lot of it was done in-house and not necessarily commissioned. You might say that more often than not, it was a little dusty, if you see what I mean, in terms of storytelling and the genre itself. The founder of Sunnyside, who unfortunately passed away last year, the co-founder actually, who passed away in 2019, had this vision that a documentary was something extremely important, a genre that could travel just like animation, because fundamentally, although some of the documentaries are made for a local audience, but it has the potential of reaching out really to an international audience. At the same time, he realized, with a few other people, of course, that in order to create any ambitious documentary, you couldn't finance it in your own market alone. You really needed international co-production. And that's really the DNA of Sunnyside, to create a market where people can find financing, can find international partners as well, to create documentaries that have a chance to resonate worldwide.
In many ways, he was before his time. What's his name then? Well, can you tell me the names of the founders of Sunnyside?
Sunnyside was founded by two people named Masson and mostly Yves Janot. Yves Janot was a very well-known figure in the world of documentary in France because he was a producer when he set up Sunnyside. He went on to different production companies. He also was the head of documentary for French public broadcaster France 2. So he wore many hats in the industry. But for 30 years, he remained loyal to Sunnyside, which he co-created and animated for all these years, even setting up satellite events. You had Latin side of the doc, Asian side in Latin America, of course, Asian side of the doc in Asia. There were a couple of editions in North America as well. He really set up a whole network of industry professionals throughout the world. But for 30 years or 33 years now, Sunnyside, first of all in Marseille originally, and now in La Rochelle, has always been the kind of climax of all the activities throughout the year.
And so why La Rochelle then? You say it started in Marseille, but is there any particular reason why it's in La Rochelle? People will have only been to La Rochelle if they've been on holiday in the area or something?
Yeah, I think the bottom line was mostly a question of venue. Marseille, because the event grew like most successful events do, and the venue was no longer really adapted in Marseille, especially for some of the conferences that had to be held in close by venues, which was not very, very convenient. So after looking around, they found La Rochelle, which is really attractive. It's a beautiful city. There's a great atmosphere. Everything can be done within walking distance. Sunnyside is pretty unique because it's a market only. There's no festival attached to it. Whereas most industry events are originally festivals with industry days that have grown bigger and bigger. La Rochelle is 100% market. And for us, it's very important to have a single venue where you have an exhibition hall, where you have all the panels and pitching sessions taking place as well. So that's something we found in La Rochelle, with a venue that has a lot of character as well. It's right by the docks. It used to be the wholesale fish market a long time ago. So it's right by the docks, right by the water. So the atmosphere is very casual, but it's very business oriented. And there's plenty of seafood at night, plenty of restaurants. It's a very festive town as well. Last Saturday, the rugby team of La Rochelle defeated Leinster in the European Champions
Cup. I saw that. Yeah, I noticed that.
And Sunday night, 35,000 people in town. Sunday night, the team came back from Marseille, where the finals took place. It's quite ironic in a way because the finals took place in Marseille and it's La Rochelle team which won. So it's really following Sunnyside steps. And the whole city was on fire. I mean, the atmosphere was absolutely incredible. You won't get that maybe when you come to Sunnyside, but June 21st is Music Day in France, so the whole city is going to be wild as well. So that's part of the charm of La Rochelle. But seriously, it's really the unique venue and the ease of meeting people and getting together at night, which is really attractive in La Rochelle.
Yeah, and that's again something that we've returned to. It's been a central theme really of TellyCast, that the ability for people to come together and do business in face to face. Is this the first post-pandemic edition? Tell us how you've survived through COVID.
Well, it was hard. It was hard for everybody, for producers, for broadcasters, for sales agents, and for markets as well. As you said, I mean, we all believe in the value of meeting face to face. Having said that, we thought it was very important to keep something going and to keep engaging the documentary community. So for the last 2 years, we've been online. We had 2 editions online in June. And we added a few other events during the year, especially the Global Pitch, which is held in February, which is a 100% pitching session, nothing else. So for 2 days in a row. And we thought it was really, really important to keep, as I said, engaging the documentary community. We realized a lot of people were suffering from not meeting their peers because there were no markets. And although we know that the kind of interaction, the energy, the serendipity of in-person events cannot be matched online, it still helped us maintain some kind of a bond, a link in the industry, and more importantly, to help projects getting done. So we were happy we did it. We had pretty good response from the industry. But when I see the level of passion, energy, and enthusiasm for an in-person event, we know that everybody's dying to get together again. So we're really looking forward to the event in a couple of weeks.
Well, me too. So tell us a little bit about what we can expect then when we arrive in La Rochelle. So there's presumably panels, there's pitching sessions and various other events. Talk us through what the main body of the Sunnyside of the Dock event.
Well, we see it as having 3 main pillars. First of all, as I said, it's a market. So like any market, you have booths, you have meeting areas. And I think it will be even more important this year, as we just said, after 2 years of pandemic. People need to get together. They need to talk about projects. They need to get an update from their industry partners, contacts, clients, prospects, etc. Individual meetings will be all important this year. So we have booths with exhibitors ranging from producers to distributors, some broadcasters, archives as well. Archives companies are attending Sunnyside. There are a lot of meeting areas. We've developed new offers as well for sales agents, for instance, with dedicated tables, which really helps them having a place to meet for sure, but not having to have to be on a stand all day long. So we've really tried to make sure that we would be as flexible as possible and allow for as many meetings as possible. So that's the kind of traditional market activities. And basically what's happening there is people look for potential international co-production partners. When I say partners, it could be other producers, it could be sales agents, broadcasters, platforms, funders. So you're really talking about developing projects and helping them come to fruition. And also, we are very interested in the circulation of finished programs. That's why a lot of sales agents attend Sunnyside. Not always for hard sales, actually, because the market is a bit more casual, but both for sourcing new projects by meeting new producers they don't know, and also talking to commissioning editors and buyers who attend the market. The beauty of Sunnyside is you have more time to spend with people. So if you need to spend 45 minutes or an hour with someone to really understand their editorial line, someone from a channel, for instance, you can do that. So that's for the first pillar, the market activities. The second pillar, I would call the market intelligence. So that's all the panels. We try to have very concrete panels. It's a market. People are busy. People are here to have meetings. So we know that they're not necessarily interested in very theoretical panels about the future of documentary, but they want to know what's going on, especially after 2 years of pandemic. We need to be informed about trends, about what's the talk of the town in terms of documentary, what the stakes are, what broadcasters are looking for. So we have a variety of panels ranging from what we call Meet the Executive sessions, where we have an hour session with broadcasters, platforms to explain their editorial line, what they're looking for, how to work with them. And this year we will have a couple of traditional broadcasters, because there's been changes in staff and not everybody has met. So we'll have RAI, for instance, with the new head of RAI documentary being introduced to the market. We will have our friends from RTBF from Belgium, very close by. But once again, there's been a few changes in what they're looking for. So we'll be happy to introduce that. But we have sessions looking at streamers, of course. We need to have the streamers, and not always the biggest streamers. We also want to introduce people who are a bit more unexpected. So we will be doing that. Then, of course, you also have the pitching sessions, which are at the core of Sunnyside. We have quite a few of them this year. I think we will get back to that later in terms of the selection. But the pitching sessions are very important in several aspects. First of all, it allows producers to pitch their projects in front of decision makers and hopefully to get interesting meetings afterwards and find partners. But it's also interesting for anybody to see what the reactions of broadcasters, of decision makers are. Because after each pitch, we have an 8-minute Q&A session. And we try really to make sure that through the questions asked by the decision makers, we can understand what makes them tick, what they're looking for. And this is very interesting for anybody attending the session, not just for the selected projects.
If I'm a producer now and say, how can I pitch my projects actually down at Sunnyside? That's a process that's already finished. Is that right? Or is that closed?
That's correct. The process is finished. The selection is actually available online, so you can check it. Having said that, if you're a producer who has not been selected, first of all, as I said, the pitching sessions are really interesting to get a kind of feel for what the industry is doing at the moment and for what decision makers are looking for.
You can learn a lot from actually seeing how a project's been pitched, and more so, I suppose, from the reaction that you're getting from the platform or the streamer or the commissioners who've been pitched, right?
Exactly. Yes, that's always very, very interesting. It's also a way of knowing, what kind of projects are being selected in a market like ours. So because we have a selection made by juries of professionals in the business, and they really select projects that do have a chance to make it on the market. Obviously, we like to select projects that may be a bit more maybe difficult, that need more exposure, not just the big blockbusters whom we know are going to get made. We keep a kind of balance, but we always bear in mind whether there's a marketability for these projects. And obviously, if you're a producer coming to Sunnyside, there's so many opportunities at parties, on stands, to meet people and to have anything from your elevator pitch of 30 seconds to a more protracted meeting, of course, where you can pitch your ideas and pitch your project. So there's plenty of pitching opportunities besides the official pitching sessions.
So imagine I often do this, don't worry, I'm not going to pitch you an idea, Matthew, but if...
Please do, that's the rule of the game.
If I've got a documentary project that I've taken to Channel 4, let's say, and Channel 4 have said, this is really interesting, but, we're only going to pitch up half the money here. What would be the opportunity for me at Sunnyside then? So I've got my 50% funded documentary project that I'm really excited about. What's the practical ways that I can help get that show over the line if I come to Sunnyside?
Well, I mean, if you have 50% of your financing already, you're king of the world, and the rest will be a piece of cake. No, there's several ways to go about it. You can approach international broadcasters attending Sunnyside directly. And we have a raft of broadcasters ranging from public broadcasters, European public broadcasters, PBS, NHK. And bear in mind that we will also host the annual meeting of the EBU commissioning editors the day before Sunnyside. So a lot of them will be staying on for Sunnyside. So lots of public broadcasters, private channels, of course. And you're talking about, pay TV like Canal Plus or HBO Europe through to specialty channels, both from France and internationally. You will be able to meet some streaming platforms as well. So you have the kind of final clients who are there. Now, having said that, in a lot of cases, especially in Europe, as you know, broadcasters tend to work with local producers. It's absolutely necessary because they have quotas, they have investment obligations. The public funds in any country are available to local producers only. So I think it's also a very wise idea to talk to producers, independent producers attending Sunnyside, and see how they could help you set up an international co-production. And finally, you also have sales agents. So if you don't have one already, you can talk to a sales agent who will help you either bring money to the table in the form of an MG, or who will be able to help you put your deal together in terms of pre-sales or co-production, because they're in touch with broadcasters and streamers all the time. So you have really a whole range of people who might be of interest to you.
In terms of getting in touch with people before the actual event itself, is there an online portal where you can communicate with people, or is it more a case of you can see who's going to be there, but you just need to network when you're down in La Rochelle?
No. It's a market. You need to prepare it in advance. It's always much better. There's several ways of doing it. We're just launching our platform because we also have today, Thursday, June 2nd, is actually the second day of our before event kicking off Sunnyside, held on the platform that will host all the information on Sunnyside. So the list of participants is available. And we also have an Excel list of participants, which really helps you prepare your market. Because like any market, you have to target whom you want to see. And we always say it's not necessarily the quantity of meetings that you're going to have, but it's really focusing on the right people and making sure you meet the people who are going to help you. The rest will happen with the serendipity at any market. People will introduce you to other people you haven't thought about, and you will expand your network. But preparing in advance is key. So it's both the platform of Sunnyside, and on that platform, you will also find an Excel list of all participants.
Right. Okay. And that's sunnysideofthedock.com. Is that right?
Yeah, you can go through that. It's actually, we're using a swap card application, but if you go to sunnysideofthedock.com, then you will be guided to the platform hosting the event.
So tell us about the official selection, because that's almost like the backbone, if you like, isn't it, of Sunnyside? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sunnyside is a bit special because we've always been pretty strong on factual specialists, actually. We've always focused on I would say, made-for-TV documentaries. Obviously, the lines are getting blurred, especially with kind of programs that the platforms are commissioning. And because we've been working with different countries, which are more on the creative documentary side, but we still retain this kind of DNA, and we offer pitching sessions in the traditional documentary subgenres like science, arts and culture, history, wildlife, which we call nature and conservation, actually, and global issues. So these are the kind of backbone of the programming of a lot of broadcasters and platforms in terms of documentary. We also have a couple of other sessions, one dedicated immersive experiences, AR, VR, XR, etc., and a new one dedicated to digital narrative, digital native stories. The idea is really to pitch non-linear documentaries, but documentaries made for social platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, etc., etc. And we'll also have some podcasts being pitched for the first time at Sunnyside. And because of our theme this year, which is New Voices, we have a dedicated session to New Voices. So it's not by genre, but it's really dedicated to what we call New Voices. And we have a fairly broad understanding of the word. New Voices for us is, of course, emerging talents, first and second time filmmakers, young producers, young in the business anyway. But we're particularly looking at underrepresented communities and underrepresented countries. If you look at the selection of the New Voices pitching session, you'll find a project from Jordan, a project from the United Arab Emirates, for instance, one from Slovenia as well. So there's a whole range of countries that are not as present as others in the international market.
How about your personal highlights then, Matthew? So you've been involved in Sunnyside for a little while. How long have you been in your role at Sunnyside?
Well, actually, not so long, because I started in January 2020. So a couple of weeks before the world came to a standstill. Right. So this will be, in this role anyway, my first Sunnyside of the Dock. Having said that, I've been attending since 2001, and I think I only missed one in 2019, unfortunately, because it was a 30th anniversary and it was a big event.
Yeah.
So I'm not unfamiliar with Sunnyside, let's say. So some of my highlights, first of all, we really love the project that we pitched. We had fantastic submissions. we gave our juries a really tough time because there were so many good projects that would have deserved to be selected. But I think at the end of the day, we have a fantastic selection. Interestingly enough, with perfect parity. We always look at it, but it's not necessarily our sole criteria to select programs. But exactly half the selected projects are directed by women and half by male directors. Across all the submissions, I think we had about 40% of first and second films. So that was great as well, because it means that there's really new voices coming to the industry. We really reached out for them, but we're glad that they actually submitted projects. The variety of projects that we have, the variety of narrative styles, the variety of angles is really interesting. So that's probably one of my highlights is the pitching sessions. We also have a few panels linked to our New Voices theme. We will kickstart Sunnyside with a conversation with PBS, because PBS in the US has been doing a lot in terms of diversity and inclusion. And I think that their experience is really, really interesting for the rest of the world, not just for American-based professionals. We will have as well a panel on training initiatives for diversity, because we realize it's great to bring new voices to the market, but we have to make sure that they find their place in the community. And in order to do that, training is of key importance, I think. So we will look at different initiatives that have been taken to make sure that all these new voices that are less familiar with the market can be fully accepted and learn how to navigate the market. And actually, we're also offering sessions with experts from different walks of life to all newcomers to make sure that they have people to talk to. They can get some feedback on their project. They can get some ideas on how to find international co-production money, what kind of a festival strategy, how to produce in a more sustainable way. So we really have a whole section of offers for newcomers, and we are really happy to do that. And sorry, I don't want to leave it too long, but there's one thing I need to mention. We will have a showcase of Ukrainian projects as well, of course. Already from the selection, we could see that the context was very, very present. We have several films on Russia from different angles, and not necessarily, because we are not really open to official Russian presence, but we have films dealing with Russia and probably carrying a slightly different voice from the official voice that you have from the government, of course. And we will be very, very happy to welcome a delegation of Ukrainian projects in conjunction with several partners we're working with, projects that really need to reach out to the international community because they're, as you can imagine, done in very difficult circumstances. And we're really happy to provide not only a pavilion, but also a pitching opportunity to connect with the rest of the world.
That sounds really interesting. And obviously, a packed agenda. So give us an idea of the scale then of how big Sunnyside is. I mean, how many people can we expect to be there? How international is it in terms of delegates and the number of companies? Give us a few stats, Mathieu.
Last time we were in person, we reached 2,300 people. So I would say 2,000 to 2,300. Obviously, we're past pandemic, but there's still a few, we won't have a Chinese presence in person. They will be attending online, but not in person because the travel restrictions are still in place. But apart from that, all the countries will be represented. I mean, there's no problem anymore. So we expect to be back to our usual numbers, hoping to grow, but, not that much, because I think one of the beauties of Sunnyside is to remain very focused. So we don't want to turn into a huge market where you don't see people anymore. That number, between 2,000 and 2,500, for us is a pretty good number because people remain accessible. And that's really key to the success of Sunnyside. About 80% of our participants hail from Europe and all parts of Europe. We've been really developing partnerships with Central and Eastern Europe in the last few years. And for instance, we'll be hosting the first workshop of the Ex Oriente training session for the 2022 session. Ex Oriente has 3 workshops of 1 week, so La Rochelle will be the first one. You're talking about a dozen projects from Central and Eastern Europe, represented by both the producer and the director. So they will meet for a couple of days before Sunnyside for their training activities, and they will be still present during the event. Of course, projects from Ukraine. So Central and Eastern Europe is very big for us. Obviously, we also have the key European territories, very strong presence from France, naturally, but from the UK as well, from Germany. We have 2 countries which we really focus on this year, which are Spain and Italy, with very strong delegations of producers and some of their broadcasters as well. They have really been more and more present in the last few years. And it's great because the scene is changing very rapidly in both countries. and they're really opening up to more international co-production. So I think there's going to be lots of opportunities in that respect. Very strong presence, as usual, I'm tempted to say, from Canada, both French-speaking part and English-speaking part. Some present from the US as well. NHK will be there, first time in 3 years that they're attending an international market. So we're really happy to welcome them. Thanks to our theme on New Voices, we've really worked hard to attract people from less represented countries, as I mentioned before. So we'll have a delegation from South Africa attending Sunnyside, a few producers from the Middle East as well. So really, truly a real international presence.
There's another event running in parallel that's been going on for a few years, which is Pixie Festival. So tell us about that and how that fits into the overall Sunnyside setup.
Yes, thank you for mentioning it. Pixie Festival will hold its sixth edition. And during the pandemic, we slightly changed the format and focus of Pixie. Basically, for us, Pixie is really the kind of innovation lab of Sunnyside of the Dock, preparing what's next for the documentary industry. And there's really two sides to Pixie Festival. One is to present some immersive experiences to the public. We used to do it in the same venue as Sunnyside, and we actually changed last year during the pandemic, which was a bit of a risk, a bit of a gamble, but it worked. And we'll be presenting immersive experiences in iconic venues in La Rochelle to go and meet the public, the audience, where they are, rather than expecting them to come to us. Of course, anybody with an accreditation to Sunnyside will be able to enjoy these experiences as well. And they will start actually the weekend before Sunnyside. So the Pixie Festival will last a little longer. It'll last 6 days altogether. And the selection is actually announced this morning, on Thursday morning in La Rochelle. We have a press conference. So please stay tuned and check our website. You will be able to see who's selected and what kind of immersive experiences you'll be able to see. And on the market side, we're bringing everybody under one roof. There used to be two separate exhibition venues in the same building, but slightly separate. This year, everybody will be together. And I was mentioning a few minutes ago the Canadian stand, for instance. Exen Quebec, which is an association representing all the immersive producers in Quebec, will be exhibiting under the same roof. So we really want to bring everybody together, and same thing for the panels. The idea is really to focus on new forms of storytelling and new forms of financing. We'll have a panel on NFT and metaverse, really what's in store for the documentary industry, how to innovate, how to create differently from traditional linear documentaries.
I look forward to getting involved in the immersive element as well of Sunnyside. That sounds fun. And now it's time in the show, the first for a little while, to hear Matthew's story of the week, the TV industry news story that's caught his eye over the past 7 days or so. Matthew, what's your story of the week?
Well, it had to be the announcement by Tim Davie of the digital first plan for the BBC. I picked the article in Variety. Obviously, it got a lot of coverage. What I found interesting in the article in Variety is you have the whole letter that Tim Davie wrote to the staff to explain the new plans for the BBC. And I thought it had to be the story of the week, not necessarily from a purely UK-centric angle, but I think to me it raises a lot of interesting questions, and mostly from 2 points of view. The first one is the financing of public broadcasters. I think because the bottom line is the BBC did that because the license fee is being frozen, so they need to cut costs, and you shouldn't forget that. And, I come from a country, I'm based in France, where the government just announced they would scrap the license fee, and the measure to replace it hasn't been announced yet. There's promises that the public service will still be financed, of course, but nobody knows exactly how it will be done. And as you know, in so many countries, public service broadcasters are being called into question by governments who don't always agree with the stance of public service broadcasters, who are very keen on cutting their resources. When you think about, the role of the BBC celebrating its 100th anniversary, being a kind of figure and reference for the whole world, that's really telling a lot that they have to cut and cancel a couple of channels like BBC4, for instance. And also, I think linked to that is the real challenge of going digital and digital first. And that's what's interesting in the Variety article. Tim Davie was quoting a few figures, saying, for instance, that 85% of the time spent with the BBC right now is spent on linear. So that's a huge challenge. How do you make sure that these people will still be able to find the right programs in a digital environment? How do you make sure that nobody is left on the side? Because there's still a lot of people who cannot access digital world easily. And I'm not just talking about the UK, but in many countries, including European Western countries, even in France, there was a huge debate on whether we should turn France 4, one of the public broadcasters, into a non-linear channel only online. And for the moment, especially with the pandemic, people have realized the role of public service broadcasters and thought maybe now is not the right time to get rid of a channel. But I think it's a huge challenge on how to position yourself in the digital environment. It's a bit of a gamble and a risk, I guess, for the BBC. But it's very interesting to see how they're going to do it. I'm really looking forward to following what's happening. And for me, it really had to be the story of the week, because that's so typical of what's going on in the industry right now, with all the challenge that lay ahead for all of us.
The demographics also in linear TV, is obviously, much older. So it's also going to be about positioning for the future, isn't it? Which is really, really key, because as we know, huge swathes of younger viewers are not interacting with the BBC or not interacting with any linear broadcasters. They're consuming content through various different channels. It'd be interesting to see how things develop, not just for the BBC, as you say, but for all linear and public service broadcasters around the world.
Yeah, and obviously, when you're talking about documentary, to get back to our point of view, our viewpoint, the question is, what kind of documentary do you create? I mean, once you're no longer a broadcaster, and the same thing applies to private broadcasters who have their own platform, there's a lot of interesting discussions going on as to what does it mean to have a format for a particular slot or a strand when you're also non-linear, because then you don't need the same storytelling, the same way of writing. You don't need the same length for a program. So it calls into question really the whole production industry as well.
After a few weeks playing out our recent event panel sessions, this week also sees the return of Hero of the Week and Get in the Bin. Mathieu, who's your Hero of the Week?
That's a really tough question, but I really wanted to pay a tribute to Nilotpal Majumdar, who's the head of Duck Edge Kolkata, and they just gave their awards last week, because there's an incredible documentary production scene in India. Duck Edge will celebrate its 20th anniversary next year, and Nilotpal has been doing an incredible job in supporting the industry in a country where there's very few support mechanism for producing documentary. And actually, the genre is not necessarily that popular with the authorities. So a couple of funds were scraped recently. And Duck Edge, which I personally discovered, I mean, I knew of the event, but it was my first time attendance online, has managed to create a sense of community and a great family of people who've been following the documentary scene in India. And as you remember, one of the nominees for the Oscars, Writing with Fire, was from India and was actually discovered at Duck Edge a couple of years ago. So I think Nilotpal and his team are doing an incredible job, and I just wanted to pick him as a Hero of the Week.
All right, Nilotpal, Hero of the Week. And who or what are you telling to get in the bin?
You know what? May I twist the question a little bit, because I hate to be negative and putting things in the bin. I like to think positive. So I'll look back at the win of the La Rochelle team in the Rugby Cup, because it heralds a fantastic sunny side of the dock in La Rochelle with a great spirit. The whole city is waiting for you. And forget about the bin. Let's look forward and be positive.
All right. Okay.
Apologies for
that's a very political answer, but a good one, Mathieu. I like the way that you've turned that round. And absolutely, I'm looking forward to getting over to La Rochelle, and perhaps not with a load of rugby fans, but with a whole load of the documentary industry. And by the way, I'm going to ask you the question now, Mathieu. What's the best restaurant? What's the best restaurant in La Rochelle to get a booking in right now?
Let's do it on private message, because otherwise you won't be able to get a booking.
That's a good point. Let's do that. Mathieu, thank you so much for joining me this week. It's been really interesting. Can't wait to see you down in La Rochelle in late June. Remind me of the dates again.
June 20th to 23rd.
Okay, well, we'll see you there. Hopefully see lots of our listeners there as well. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for having me, Justin, and looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks.
Well, that's about it for another week's show. Next week, we'll be coming from Dubrovnik as the CEE TV industry comes together for the 9th edition of NEM. So if you're heading out there, I'll see you in Dubrovnik. Don't forget to visit TellyCast.com, where we have all the content from the TellyCast Content Funding Festival together in one place for free. Just register at TellyCast.com. Until next week, stay safe, and if you're travelling to a market, have a safe journey.